Welcome into Vandy on SI. I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Graham Bacco, here to kind of follow up on yesterday's crazy Vanderbilt football news that Blaze Berlowitz will start its first game against Austin P. We've had wall-to-wall coverage of every Berlowitz practice throughout fall camp. We've written about Berlowitz, so check it out at Vandy on SI on the site, and then subscribe to our channel. Graham, yesterday we were surprised by the news here. We've had 24 hours to process it. I'm going to tell you, I'm not quite as surprised as I was when we filmed it. Now that I've been able to think about it more, um, it's been published elsewhere, but I don't think I'll get into it here as much, in as much detail at least. But the way Vanderbilt had practiced and structured its practices, that kind of tells me what it's going to be like for the opener.
Mhm.
And I guess that's why I'm not surprised as much, just seeing kind of how they structure the practices in regard to quarterback play. And I think you kind of know what I'm getting at. I don't think we can
Yeah.
really get into it here. That's why I feel the way I do now relative to how I felt 24 hours ago about them starting Berlowitz. I've got some thoughts to share too, in regard to kind of why this maybe isn't quite as big of a deal as maybe we thought it was when the news initially broke. But I'm going to swing it to you here, Graham, to start. How surprised are you 24 hours later? Has anything changed since we last talked about this?
Yeah, I would say I'm kind of with you. I'm not as surprised as I was, 24 hours ago when we first posted the video. So, and just the reason is because I really don't think this quarterback competition is over. Because I think a lot of people are reading this decision as like it's over. Blaze Berlowitz is a starting quarterback, and you're just kind of, whatever, delay Jared Curtis's reps until, whenever. That's really not the case. I don't think, I really think like this tells me like this is still an ongoing quarterback competition, and they're going to give Blaze Berlowitz, the guy that's been waiting his turn, that's paid his dues, the first nod, the first crack at starting quarterback, and who knows when Jared Curtis will be the starter, but I got to think he will get his first team reps as well. So, yeah, because that's the other thing too is I've seen a lot of people just kind of just really not Vanderbilt related, but just college football fan related sort of react to this news as well. And they're like, okay, see, Blaze Berlowitz just outright beat Jared Curtis. And, Jared Curtis is either A, disappointing or B, Blaze Berlowitz had to have performed just that good to beat out a five-star freshman. Both of which I don't think are true because, again, I think this is still a quarterback competition going into the season. So, and week one is sort of maybe an audition for the rest of the season. But yeah, I don't think this is a uh, season long decision. This is I think a week one decision, and they'll just kind of play it by ear.
Yeah, Graham, before I talked to anybody yesterday, I wrote that story that basically proclaiming the same thing that Vanderbilt's still got a quarterback battle on its hands here. It's still
Mhm.
in the midst of a quarterback battle, regardless of who starts the first game at this point.
Mhm.
And as I made calls last night and picked up some calls, that's kind of what I believe to be true still. I don't think that Vanderbilt has settled on Berlowitz as a long-term starter. I think from what I've gathered, Vanderbilt still knows the best thing for the program long term is Curtis starting as many games as he possibly can this season, and Vanderbilt getting as much development in there as possible. I think there is, I think Berlowitz is a popular guy in that locker room. I think there's a lot of people who are excited about what he can do, and we heard that echoed throughout pressers in the fall.
Mhm.
I think that that's not all that inaccurate. I
Mhm.
don't think that was necessarily exaggerated. What I will say is, with the talk of does Curtis have the locker room, does Berlitz have the locker room? If you're of the camp that Berlitz has it, I would say I could see that. Like he's
Mhm.
been with them for 3 years. He knows a lot of these guys. He's won with a lot of these guys. Um, Curtis, I don't know. We haven't got enough of a sense for his personality yet, but I think he's somewhat reserved, maybe more than
Yep.
Berlowitz is. All that to say, I don't think it really matters what the locker room says here. I think they're going to be fine either way, and I don't think they have any disdain for either candidate here, so I wouldn't put that into play here. That's another thing that kind of pressed in on last night. The locker room stuff doesn't matter here, I don't think, because I don't think they've hitched their wagon strongly to either candidate for the job. What I'll say is I expect Curtis to start games relatively quickly here,
Yeah.
um, unless Berlowitz just lights it up. And I'm actually not ruling out the fact that he could be, or the idea that he could be a lot better than what people think he could be. I think he's
Mhm.
actually, I think he's going to run the offense pretty well. I think he's got some arm talent that maybe isn't reflected through his decision making at times, but maybe Tim Beck puts him in better positions in game than he does in practice. Um, I think he's gotten a lot better at taking the check down. That's kind of a thought
Mhm.
I've wrestled with this morning a little bit too, is how good can Berlitz be right away? Even if he's pretty good, I think Vanderbilt's, and I can't speak for Clark Lee here, he's going to speak for himself in a week. I think they know the best thing for the program long term is Jared Curtis starting as many games as possible. To me, it kind of seems like they want him to beat Berlowitz out, though, and they're still waiting for that to decisively happen, Graham.
Yeah, and I mean, think back to fall camp too. Like, even though we, had Jared Curse as our projected starter and we ran through the logic and everything, like during fall camp, it was, pretty even for like pretty much the whole fall camp. Like, there's no huge divide in which Jared Curtis just totally blew out Blaze Berlowitz, and there's no situation where Blaze Berlowitz just totally blew out Jared Curtis. So yeah, like that's kind of the other thing too, just about this quarterback conversation is that not only is it still ongoing, but like it truly was not necessarily decided throughout fall camp just based on the performances of the two quarterbacks. So yeah, I do think this is a situation where it seems like maybe the coaching staff is waiting for Jared Curtis to beat Blaze Berlowitz and I guess declare him for the starter of the future and of the program going down the road. So yeah, I'm kind of with you in that sense as well. Like I would not be surprised at all if we get to late September and Jared Curtis is a starting quarterback, either going in the NC State game or going on the road to Auburn in late September. So I would not be stunned at all if that is the case. It's just the coaching staff needs to see Jared Curtis truly do beat out Blaze Berlitz with his performance to probably feel comfortable doing that. And yeah, and again, like it wouldn't surprise me if that did end up happening in a matter of, a month from now.
Yeah, we both predicted that Curtis would be the starter. I don't know that I regret that prediction a ton, Graham,
Mhm.
just because
Yeah.
I think the logic still stands, and I think Vanderbilt in a lot of ways agrees with the
Mhm.
logic here. Like that's why he's playing against Austin P. That's why it's
Right.
not just Berlowitz. Um, I thought the quarterback competition would be decided heading into week one.
Mhm.
And I don't know that it fully is at this point, and that's why I think we differed from what they actually did because I thought
Mhm.
they would see more of the logic in playing him right away and giving him the full runway to not look over his shoulder and give him some confidence by starting him in those games. Clearly, that wasn't what we aligned on with them, and I
Mhm.
think that's probably the thing that if I was going to criticize them, it would be for not giving him some runway before they get to their most difficult games,
Yeah.
and not. I think he's going to be fighting for the job. There's a world where he's fighting for the job during the NC State game still, and
Yeah.
that's I don't know what they're thinking about that. If they're gonna have a firm decision before then, like they've drawn a line in the sand. But
Mhm.
I mean, they're still fighting for the job in week one, and obviously that
Yeah.
makes week one a lot more interesting. But still, you don't have the stability yet. I think this is probably a more realistic thing than them starting Blaze and telling Blaze he's gonna get the whole game and then pulling him after he makes a mistake or two. I think there's got to be some sense that this is a real battle still.
Mhm.
And Graham, I'm pretty interested to hear what Clark Lee has to say next Tuesday.
Oh,
I'm almost wondering how much of what he says is going to feel different from what he actually means, because I think he's going to, I imagine that he's not going to talk about this like it's a open competition. I imagine he's going to
Mhm.
talk about it and congratulate Blaze and do all those types of things, but
Mhm.
uh, I still think that this is pretty up in the air. The one question I have that I really haven't been able to get to the bottom of, and I don't imagine we will, is how much. how much of the snaps are actually going to go to Curtis in week one.
Yeah.
Um, I saw it got aggregated that we said that there was going to be meaningful snaps played by him in week
Okay, I think
one.
I saw that aggregation too.
Yeah, I don't know that maybe I wrote that, and I think I wrote that meaning like whatever snaps he gets are going to be meaningful in week one.
Yeah.
I don't know what the snap count's going to be for him. I don't know if it's going to be like he's going to punch it in around the goal line on 4th and 1, or he's going to get multiple series. I don't know how that's going to play out. But
Mhm.
wanted to kind of clear that up. I don't know how much he's going to play or not. If it's anything like camp, I would imagine that he gets out there somewhat significantly, Graham.
Mhm. Yeah, no, because those are the two things that I'm most, excited and most fascinated to watch for is number one, Clark Lee's presser, obviously, on Tuesday. Number one, how much of honestly, it would not stun me at all if the whole conversation, the whole press conference is about quarterback talk. I
Yeah,
think I could definitely see a world where that's just a reality. So obviously fascinated about what he says about Blaze and Jared and how, if he's going to provide a response as to how they're going to divvy it up in terms of the reps. And that's the other thing too that I'm going to be looking for is what exactly is the structure and exactly is the plan here? Like, is it first quarter Blaze or first half even Blaze Burrows and then second half Jared Curtis? Is it okay? You get two drives and then Jared Curtis gets two drives like that. That's what I'm really most fascinated to see. Or is it until okay? You're the starter until, or you're in the game until you make a huge mistake, and then Jared Curtis, you're going to be in the game until you make a big mistake, and then switch back and forth. So that's going to be those two things are just the most fascinating to me is how exactly what is it actually going to look like on the field on September 5th is obviously we know both are going to get snaps and I would assume Jared Curse will get meaningful snaps. I don't think his first appearance is going to be up, when they're up, I don't say 28-3 or something like that. Like I think he's gonna see some sort of action if they're, even if they're up, what, 10, 10, 13 points or something like that. I still got to think he's going to be seeing snaps that are, I guess you could say relatively meaningful. So that's just really just the most fascinating to me. And then obviously, I think after the game as well, depending on how that goes, again, just what does Clark say and what does he evaluate and how does he evaluate going forward? Because you also mentioned the point about the runway thing, and that's very true too. Like, are we going to have and see a quarterback battle truly into week three against the NC State team that is a very formidable team. Like they are a sneaky, sneaky team with that, the coaching staff over there with Dave Doran. And so, or are you just sort of, I guess, evaluating what happens week one and then committing to a decision for the Delaware game so that if it is Jared Curtis as your starter long term, then you get more reps and a little more runway before the schedule gets pretty brutal.
yeah. Graham, a lot to unpack here. One more thing that I want to note, based off of the discourse yesterday. There's a lot of thought about like Curtis is going to transfer because he's not starting week one. Uh, it, there's just, I think by the end of the year, Jared Curtis is going to start at least
Yeah,
7 or 8 games. And if
yeah,
that's the case, there's just no way that he's going to transfer at that point. And if he does, that either means that he performed poorly and
yeah,
needs a fresh start, or if he is that upset about not starting in week one while still playing in week one, you probably want a new quarterback. And I don't know if he's
yeah,
upset now. I haven't gotten to the bottom of that. I don't know if he's upset. I don't know if he's fully on board. I don't know if he knew this was going to happen for a long time. I think this is one of those things where if he's upset right now, he won't be upset when he's starting his third game. If he's going to
yeah.
hold this against Clark Lee and company, uh, I just don't think that that's a realistic thing. I don't expect him to transfer because of this. Now, if he doesn't play all season, like if he's still splitting time towards the end of the year, sure. Um,
Hmm.
but again, like if he doesn't play all year, how much are people going to want to pay Blaze Berlowitz or pay a guy who didn't beat out Blaze Berlowitz? Probably not
Right.
a ton. And
Yeah. Fair.
Jared Curtis hasn't made at Vanderbilt financially. He's not gonna. I don't think he would leave for a decrease in payday. Graham, that's just my thing. Like a new car loses a lot of value when you drive it off the lot for the first time, and that's how I would
Mhm.
feel with Curtis entering the portal this year, uh, if he doesn't play significantly. And I don't even envision a world where he doesn't play significantly. I don't think that's how this is going to work.
Yeah, I think that's to say, oh, he's going to transfer now because of this. It's pretty ridiculous to say. Because again, I think it's a totally different thing if he ends up sitting on the bench for the vast majority of the season and doesn't really see much playing time. Okay, that's totally fine. I get it if you want to transfer, but if you really do you really think like let's just say by a month from today they're at Auburn on the road. And if this is, say, his second game, if the Auburn game is his second game in which he starts, and then he's a season-long starter from there on out, I mean, do you really think he's gonna be that upset by, late November that he didn't get the start in a September game? I don't think so. I don't think he's gonna hold that against the coaching staff. I think by the end of the season, if indeed he is the long-term starting QB, I think he's going to be perfectly fine with where he's at. Even though I'm sure he probably would love to start week one, but I don't think that's going to determine how he goes about the rest of his college career and where he goes. So I think that's a pretty ridiculous take to say just because of this decision, he's going to transfer. Just let it play out, and if he doesn't end up playing that much, then sure. But I mean, just to base off this is kind of it's just premature.
Yeah, I agree, Grab. Also, big news, Vanderbilt just made the top 14 for five-star point guard Caden Daughtry. We'll mention that here.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
way off
There you
topic.
go.
I love that there's a top 14 list. That's why I had to mention that.
That is a lot. Jeez.
Um, but back to quarterbacks, Graham. From what I understand, I would be shocked if Curtis is not the year. If he's not starting more than half their games, I would be stunned by the end of the year. He's the quarterback of the future still in their mind, I think. And I think in a lot of ways, he's going to be the quarterback of the present too. That could all change if Berlowitz beats him out. If,
Mhm.
but also I think they know like probably the best interest of the program and the best chance to win the national championship moving forward is to start Jared Curtis, get him that development this year, and figure out if you
Mhm.
have your quarterback of the future. They still haven't seen him play in a game, Graham, and I think that's probably why
Yeah.
Austin P is such a valuable evaluation too. For now, though, I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Graham Bacco. Thank you guys for watching. A little bit more of a calm, rapid reaction today than yesterday. Yesterday, we were just kind of floored by the news. Looking back, I don't know that we necessarily should have been,
I
uh,
agree.
but
Yeah.
I also don't fault us for predicting Curtis. Even by the end, the most
Right.
pro Berlitz people had predicted that Curtis would start.
Hmm.
I think it's easy to look back in hindsight, and say like, look at how the practice reps were distributed. But I think we were not expecting them to play two in the first game, and
Right.
I
I
didn't
agree.
think that they were going to continue to have the battle going, especially because Clark Lee committed to naming the starter on
Mhm.
Monday or Tuesday, at least privately. So, Graham, we'll learn from it, I guess. But I still think that what we had said in camp was probably on point, but
Mhm.
maybe 2 weeks early, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Like
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 weeks early.
Yeah, I don't regret any predictions we made. I don't regret any analysis that we made. I think it was all on point. I think it was all pretty accurate, I'd say. So yeah, no, maybe we were just a couple weeks early, like you said. But yeah, no, I don't. I was surprised initially. I can understand it a little more now. Doesn't make me regret any projection I made though. So, but yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Uh, there it is. I think Vanderbilt fans will like this one a lot more than the last one. I expect
yeah.
what we said to happen, but probably in a few weeks from
Mhm.
now. Um, but yeah, that's all we got for now. I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Graham Bacco. Thank you guys for watching again. God bless, and we'll talk soon. Peace.